He lurks in the shadows, an ever-present enigma that haunts the darkest corners of our world. A figure spoken of in hushed tones, whispered about in the dead of night. The Hatman. His name alone sends shivers down the spine, a moniker that has become synonymous with fear and mystery. A being of pure darkness, often glimpsed but never fully understood. He is a shadow that moves with purpose, a silhouette that defies the light. His form is elusive, always on the edge of perception, a fleeting glimpse that leaves more questions than answers. His presence is a chilling whisper, a cold breath on the back of your neck. It's the feeling of being watched when you're alone, the inexplicable shiver that runs down your spine. He's the embodiment of the unknown, a specter that thrives in the fear of the unseen. He is the embodiment of fear itself, a dark, menacing presence that feeds on the terror of those who encounter him. His very existence is a testament to the power of fear, a reminder that some things are better left in the shadows. Many have encountered the Hatman. Their stories are eerily similar, each one a chilling account of a brush with the unknown. They speak of a figure that appears without warning, a shadow that seems to materialize out of thin air. Their stories share a chilling similarity, a sense of dread, a feeling of being watched. And then he appears, always the same, yet always different. A constant in the realm of the unknown, a figure that defies explanation, a sense of dread, a feeling of being watched. And then he appears. His presence is a violation, a tear in the fabric of reality. He is a harbinger of something dark and unknown, a prelude to something far more sinister. His presence is a violation, a tear in the fabric of reality. He distorts the world around him, bending the very essence of existence to his will. Those who encounter him speak of a reality that seems to shift and warp, a world that no longer makes sense. He is a harbinger of something dark and unknown, a warning of things to come, a prelude to a greater darkness. The Hatman is more than just a shadow. He is a symbol of the unknown, a reminder that there are things in this world that we may never fully understand. As long as there are shadows, he will be there, watching, waiting, a silent observer of the human condition. He's a part of our collective fears, a manifestation of the darkness that resides within us all. And so, the Hatman remains an enigma, a shadowy figure that defies explanation, a mystery that continues to haunt the darkest corners of our world. He is a reminder that some things are better left in the shadows, a testament to the power of the unknown. The old house creaked and groaned around her. The wooden floorboards, worn by time, seemed to whisper secrets of the past. Every step she took echoed through the empty halls, a reminder of the house's age and the many lives it had sheltered. Sarah sat alone in her room, a single lamp pushing back the shadows. The dim light cast eerie shapes on the walls, making the room feel both intimate and vast. She had always found solace in this room, but tonight it felt different. It had started subtly, a feeling of unease. At first she thought it was just her imagination, a trick of the mind. But as the minutes ticked by, the sensation grew stronger, more insistent. It was as if the very air around her was charged with an unseen energy, like something was watching her. She glanced over her shoulder, half expecting to see someone standing there. But the room was empty, save for the shadows that seemed to dance just out of sight. Her heart raced and she could feel the pulse in her temples. She tried to shake off the feeling, but it only grew stronger. She took deep breaths, trying to calm her racing heart. "It's just the house," she whispered to herself. "Old houses make noises." But deep down, she knew it was more than that. A cold spot settled in the air and the hairs on her arms stood on end. The temperature in the room seemed to drop suddenly, and she shivered involuntarily. It was then that she saw him. A fleeting glimpse, a shadow that seemed to move on its own. A tall, shadowy figure standing at the edge of her vision. He was there, and then he wasn't, like a mirage. She blinked, trying to clear her vision, but the figure remained. Her breath caught in her throat and she felt a chill run down her spine. Who was he and what did he want? He wore a wide-brimmed hat, its shape obscuring his face. His coat, long and dark, seemed to absorb the light. Terror gripped Sarah's heart, squeezing the air from her lungs. She couldn't move, couldn't scream. He stood there for what felt like an eternity, his presence a suffocating weight. Sarah could hear whispers, though she couldn't make out the words. They seemed to slither around her, cold and menacing. Then as quickly as he appeared, he was gone. The shadows in the room seemed to retreat, the air becoming lighter. Sarah lay in bed, her body trembling, the image of the Hatman seared into her mind. She wasn't alone. Others had seen him too. Their stories, whispered in online forums and late-night radio shows, painted a picture of a terrifying entity. An entity that crossed boundaries, that defied explanation. Section 5, Paralysis and Fear. Mark's encounter had been different. Unlike any other night, this one was filled with an inexplicable dread. He had always been a rational man, dismissing tales of the supernatural as mere figments of imagination. But that night, everything changed. He woke in the dead of night, his body paralyzed. The room was eerily silent, the kind of silence that presses against your ears and makes your heart pound louder. He tried to move, to shift even a finger, but his body refused to obey. He felt a presence in the room, heavy and oppressive. It was as if the air had thickened, making it hard to breathe. His eyes darted around, searching for the source of this malevolent energy. Then he saw him. The Hatman stood at the foot of his bed, his face hidden by the shadow of his hat. The figure was tall and menacing, exuding an aura of pure evil. Mark's mind raced, trying to comprehend what he was seeing. Was this a dream? A hallucination? But it felt too real, too vivid. Mark felt a surge of terror, a primal fear that seemed to freeze his blood. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat echoing in his ears. He wanted to run, to escape, but his body remained frozen, trapped in a state of helplessness. He tried to speak, to scream, but nothing came out. His throat felt constricted, as if an invisible hand was choking him. The Hatman's presence grew stronger, more oppressive, and Mark could feel his sanity slipping away. He was trapped in a nightmare, one from which there seemed to be no escape. The clock on the wall showed 3 a.m., the witching hour. Time seemed to stretch, each second feeling like an eternity. Mark's mind was a whirlwind of fear and confusion. He had heard stories of the Hatman, but he never believed them. Now, faced with the terrifying reality, he wished he had. Desperation took over. He closed his eyes tightly, willing himself to wake up, to break free from this paralyzing fear. But the darkness remained, and so did the Hatman. Mark's breaths came in shallow gasps, his body trembling with fear. As the first light of dawn began to pierce through the darkness, the oppressive presence started to fade. The Hatman slowly dissolved into the shadows, leaving Mark gasping for breath. He was drenched in sweat, his body aching from the ordeal. The nightmare was over, but the fear lingered, a haunting reminder of the night he encountered the Hatman. Section 6, A Haunting Presence. The Hatman leaned closer, and Mark could feel his icy breath on his face. The whispers started again, swirling around him like a vortex of darkness. Then just as suddenly it was over. Mark lay there, heart pounding, as the first rays of dawn pierced through the cracks in his blinds. He knew he hadn't imagined it. The Hatman was real, and he was terrifying. Section 7, Trapped in Nightmare. The stories continued, each more disturbing than the last. Some spoke of sleep paralysis, of feeling trapped in their own bodies. Others described vivid nightmares, their dreams invaded by the Hatman's presence. What did he want? Why did he appear to so many? Was he a demon, a spirit, or something else entirely? The questions lingered, unanswered, fueling the fear and mystery surrounding him. Section 8, Seeking Answers. Paranormal investigators tried to explain the phenomenon. Some suggested sleep paralysis. Others pointed to shared hallucinations. But none of their explanations could fully account for the widespread terror the Hatman evoked. The Hatman remained an enigma. A chilling reminder that there are things in this world that defy logic and explanation. He was a whisper in the darkness, a shadow lurking at the edge of our perception. Section 9, An Unseen World, and he was still out there, watching, waiting, his presence a chilling reminder that we are not alone in this world, that there are unseen forces at play, lurking just beyond the veil of our reality. The Hatman was a terrifying glimpse into that unseen world, a world that filled us with dread and wonder in equal measure.